Liam sat alone on the old wooden bench in the park, holding a small chessboard in his hands, while his little daughter Ellie played nearby on the swings. The sky was gray, the wind was soft, and the world around him moved slowly, like a dream that never changed. Every evening he came here at the same time, wearing the same tired coat, carrying the same quiet sadness in his eyes. No one knew who he really was. Some people thought he was just a quiet man. Others said he used to be someone important. But no one ever asked, and Liam never told. He was always polite, always calm, always watching. And every evening when Ellie finished playing, they sat together and played chess under the same old tree. The board was scratched, the pieces were worn, but their game was always full of love and laughter. Ellie was only 8 years old, but already very smart. She would smile and say, "Daddy, one day I'm going to beat you." And Liam would smile back and say, "One day you will, and when you do I'll buy you the biggest ice cream in the city." But deep down, Ellie knew something was different about her dad. The way he moved, the way he looked at the board, the way he never lost. It wasn't just fun to him. It was something more. One day, as they packed up to go home, Ellie asked Daddy, "Why don't you play with other people? You always win against me, but what about grown-ups?" Liam looked at her and paused for a long moment before answering. "Because sometimes it's better to stay quiet. Sometimes people look at you differently when they know what you can do. And I don't want anyone looking at me that way again." Ellie tilted her head and said, "That sounds like a secret." Liam smiled gently and said, "Maybe it is." The next day, something changed. Liam came to the park earlier than usual. He set up the chessboard alone and placed a small sign next to it that said, "Play me. If you win, I'll buy you dinner." People stopped and stared. Some laughed. Some whispered. A few curious ones stepped forward and sat across from him. One by one they lost. An old man tried. A teenager tried. A mother with a stroller gave it a shot, while her baby slept beside her. They all walked away shaking their heads, smiling, but confused. Who was this man sitting so still with his eyes focused like fire and his hands moving like music? Ellie clapped each time and shouted, "That's my dad. He's the best player in the world." People started coming back each evening just to watch. Some filmed with their phones. Others brought friends and said, "You have to see this guy play." Still, Liam said little. He smiled, politely nodded sometimes, but never told them anything. He just played and waited for the next match. By the third day, a small crowd gathered around his bench. The park felt alive with whispers and questions. Some said he was a retired grandmaster. Some thought he used to teach at a famous academy. Others believed he had once played in secret for money in dark, smoky rooms far away from here. But no one knew for sure, because Liam never said a word about his past. He just looked at Ellie. He just played the game. One afternoon, as the sun was beginning to set, a girl in a suit walked past the crowd and stopped. She was tall, sharp, dressed in all black, with sunglasses that hid her eyes. She looked at Liam and then at the board. She raised an eyebrow and said, "Interesting." Without waiting, she sat down across from him and said, "One game." Liam looked up slowly, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. He nodded once. She said, "If I win, I get to ask you any question, and you have to answer. If you win, I buy you coffee every day for a week." Ellie giggled from a side and whispered, "She's in trouble now." The crowd leaned in. Phones went up. Silence fell. The pieces moved. Slow at first, then faster, then slower again. The game ended in 5 minutes. "Checkmate," said Liam softly. The woman leaned back, took off her glasses, and smiled. Well, she said, "I wasn't expecting that. You're good. Really good." She stood up and looked at him carefully. "Who are you really?" Liam didn't answer. He just packed up the board, took Ellie's hand, and walked away. But the crowd was buzzing. And the woman was still smiling. Something had started, and the park would never be the same again. The next morning the park felt different. The air was heavy with questions. People gathered earlier than usual, hoping the man with the chessboard would return. And he did. Liam walked in with Ellie, as always holding her small hand and carrying the old chess set under his arm. His coat looked the same, his eyes still calm, his pace slow and gentle. He sat at the same bench and set up the board like he did every evening. But today, he wasn't alone for long. Before he could even place the last piece on the board, a voice spoke behind him. "So we meet again." He turned around slowly and saw her. The same woman from the day before, dressed even sharper than before. Black blazer, black boots, black sunglasses. Hair tied back tight, lips pressed like she was always thinking. The CEO. She sat down across from him without waiting and placed her phone on the table face down. People whispered that her name was Vanessa Blake. A woman who ran 3 companies. A woman who never lost to anyone. Ellie sat beside her dad, eyes wide and excited. She remembered this lady, and she liked how bold she was. Vanessa looked at Liam and smiled slightly. "Let's make a new deal," she said. "One game. No tricks, no secrets. If I win, you come work for me." The crowd gasped. Even Ellie tilted her head in surprise. Vanessa continued, "You'll be my personal assistant. You'll get a good salary, a proper office, and maybe, just maybe, you'll tell me who you really are." Liam said nothing. He looked at Ellie. She gave a small nod like she trusted him completely. Then he looked at the board and said, "And if I win?" Vanessa leaned forward. "Then I'll donate $10,000 to any children's charity you choose." Ellie's eyes sparkled. People around them pulled out their phones again. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was something more. The pieces were placed carefully. The board ready. The sun above them warm, but not too hot. And the air around them completely still. Vanessa made the first move. Her fingers were quick. Her eyes never blinked. She looked like someone used to winning, used to control, used to being the smartest in every room she entered. Liam played slower, softer, like he was listening to music only he could hear. Move by move the game grew intense. People leaned in. Nobody spoke. Even Ellie sat still, her hands gripping the edge of the bench. Vanessa smirked at one point. "You're good," she whispered. "But I faced world champions." Liam said nothing. Another move. Then another. And then he reached out and gently moved his knight. A pause. A quiet breath. Checkmate. Vanessa stared at the board. Her face didn't change at first. She just looked, and looked, and looked again. Then she laughed. A short, dry laugh. "3 moves ago," she whispered. "3 moves ago, I didn't even see it coming." Liam began packing up the pieces. But Vanessa raised her hand. "Wait." She took off her sunglasses and looked him in the eyes. Real eyes. Tired but strong. Soft but sharp. Like someone who had seen too much and still kept going. "You're not just some single dad playing in a park." Liam didn't answer. He looked at Ellie, who smiled proudly like she had known all along. Vanessa stood up and dusted off her jacket. "Same time tomorrow," she said with a smirk. "Double or nothing." Then she walked away, heels clicking like quiet thunder on the stone path. People parted as she passed. Some clapped softly. Others just shook their heads in disbelief. Liam stayed seated. Ellie leaned against him. "Daddy," she whispered. "She's going to come back every day, isn't she?" Liam looked at the empty bench where Vanessa had sat. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He just nodded once. And somewhere in that silent nod was a storm waiting to rise. The crowd slowly left. The park returned to normal. But the bench, the board, the story had only just begun. The next evening came faster than anyone expected. The park filled with people even before sunset. Some brought folding chairs. Some brought cameras. And everyone was waiting for one thing: the rematch. Liam arrived like always, calm and quiet. Ellie walked beside him, holding his hand, swinging it playfully like nothing had changed. But everything had. The moment he reached the bench, people gathered around. They moved without speaking, as if they all knew this would be different. Then she arrived. Vanessa Blake, the CEO who never lost. Wearing white this time. White coat, white shoes, white scarf. But her eyes were still the same. Sharp. Cold. Searching. She walked straight to the bench and sat down across from Liam, without saying a word. She opened a small black case and took out her own chess pieces made of stone and silver. She started setting them up, slowly, carefully, like this was war. Liam watched without a word, then gently packed away his wooden set and nodded once. The game would be played with her pieces, today. The crowd leaned in. Phones pointed. No one blinked. Not even Ellie, who sat behind her dad like a loyal little soldier. Vanessa made the first move again. She looked at Liam and said, "Same deal as before. If I win, you work for me. And if I win," Liam asked quietly, "then I'll answer your daughter's question." Vanessa replied without looking up. Liam glanced at Ellie. She smiled. Then he nodded again. The game began. The first 5 moves were fast. Too fast. People whispered. They had never seen 2 players move like this before. Liam's hands were gentle. Vanessa's were sharp. Each move was a message. Each pause was a challenge. Then something changed. After the 6th move, Vanessa leaned back and asked, "Why do you hide here? A man like you doesn't belong in a park." Liam didn't answer. He moved his bishop. Vanessa smiled. "What happened to you? What are you running from?" Liam moved a pawn. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "You know, most people try to impress me. You just confuse me." Liam looked at the board, then at her, then moved his knight. The crowd was silent, not just watching the game now, watching the 2 of them. Like a storm was building between them, and no one could tell if it was anger or something else. Vanessa made another move and said, "You were famous once, weren't you? A champion maybe, a teacher, a ghost from the world of kings and queens." Liam looked up slowly. His voice was soft. "I used to be someone. Then I lost everything. So now I just play with my daughter and try not to think about the rest." Vanessa paused. Her fingers froze above the board. Then she made her next move without a word. Ellie leaned forward and whispered, "You're doing great, Daddy. I think she's starting to like you." People smiled quietly. Some even laughed. But the tension remained. Then Liam moved again. A knight jumped. A path opened. A piece fell. Vanessa blinked. Another move. Another piece taken. She leaned forward now, eyes locked on the board, breathing slow. Liam's hands moved like water, like music, like something he had done 1,000 times and never forgotten. Checkmate. The word came so soft, so calm, that for a second no one understood it. Then Vanessa looked down, saw the trap, saw the end, and leaned back slowly. The crowd gasped. Some clapped. Others just stared. Vanessa looked at Liam for a long moment, then at Ellie, then back at the board. She stood up slowly. "Well," she said, "I suppose I owe someone an answer." She knelt down in front of Ellie and said, "You asked what I want from your father." Ellie nodded. Vanessa smiled slightly. "I wanted to own him, to control him, to understand him. But now, I think I just want to know him." Ellie grinned and said, "That means you like him, right?" Vanessa laughed. "Maybe I do." Liam stood up. He looked at Vanessa. There was something in his eyes. Not anger, not fear, just something real. Vanessa picked up her pieces and placed them in her case one by one. Then she looked at Liam and said, "One more game tomorrow. No bets. Just chess." He nodded. As she walked away, Ellie turned to her dad and said, "Daddy, I think she's not as cold as she acts." Liam looked at the sunset, and for the first time in a long time, he smiled. The park slowly emptied. The bench sat quiet. But something new was in the air now. Not just mystery, not just chess, but something softer. Something that felt like the beginning of something more. The next day, the sky was cloudy but warm. The park felt quieter than usual. But everyone still came. People brought snacks, blankets, chairs. They came not just for the game now. They came for the story. Liam arrived a little later than normal. Ellie skipped beside him, holding a small bag of snacks. He looked tired but peaceful, like a man learning how to breathe again. The crowd noticed. The whispers were softer now, more curious, less judgmental. When Vanessa walked into the park, heads turned, phones lifted, but she didn't seem to care. She wasn't wearing black today. She wore soft blue jeans and a white sweater. Her hair was down. Her face was calm, almost gentle. She walked up to the bench where Liam sat and said, "No bets, just one honest game." Liam nodded and began to set up the board. But after placing a few pieces, Vanessa paused. "What if we just talked today?" Liam looked at her, surprised but open. "Talk about what?" he asked. "About you. About me. About why you hide in a park and why I keep coming back." Liam sat back and folded his hands. He looked at Ellie. She smiled and said, "It's okay, Daddy. You can talk to her." So Liam took a deep breath and said, "I used to be someone people knew. A chess player. A rising star. I had a wife. I had a dream. I thought I was going to change the world one match at a time." Vanessa stayed quiet. Her eyes never left his face. Then everything changed. Liam continued, "My wife got sick. Very sick. I stopped playing. I stopped traveling. I gave it all up to take care of her." He paused and looked down at the chessboard. "She passed away 3 years ago. And after that, I just couldn't go back to that world. So I came here, to the park, to play with my daughter, to stay invisible." The crowd listened in silence. Even the wind seemed to slow down. Vanessa spoke softly. "You didn't lose your talent. You just lost your reason to show it." Liam nodded. "Something like that." Then he looked at her and said, "What about you? Why does a powerful CEO keep coming back to lose chess games in the park?" Vanessa smiled, but it wasn't her usual cold smile. It was smaller, sadder. "Because winning never made me happy," she said. "I've built companies, crushed deals, won awards, but I've never had a single real friend. Not one." Liam tilted his head. "That's hard to believe." "It's true," Vanessa said. "People fear me, respect me, need me, but no one sees me. Not really. Until now." Liam looked at her for a long moment. And for the first time, he didn't see the powerful CEO. He saw a woman tired of pretending, just like he was. They didn't play that day. They just sat and talked. For hours. About life. About pain. About second chances. Ellie listened quietly. Then she said, "Can I tell you a secret too?" Vanessa turned to her. "Of course. I think you're nice," Ellie said, "even though you act like you're not." Vanessa laughed. A real laugh. The kind that surprised even her. "Thank you," she said. "That means more than you know." As the sun began to set, the crowd slowly left. Some disappointed there was no game, but most of them smiling, because they saw something better than chess. They saw healing. Vanessa stood up and said, "Same time tomorrow. And this time, we play. But no tricks. No questions. Just you and me and the board." Liam nodded. "See you then." She turned and walked away slowly. Not like a queen. Not like a boss. Just like someone who felt lighter than before. Ellie looked at her dad and said, "Do you like her now?" Liam didn't answer right away. He looked at the empty path where Vanessa had walked. Then at the sky above. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe I'm learning how to." Ellie leaned on his arm. "Then teach me too." The wind picked up. The trees swayed. The bench sat quietly once again. But something was growing between the spaces. Between the words. Between the moves that hadn't been made yet. Something soft. Something honest. Something real. And tomorrow, the game would begin again. But this time, with no masks. No walls. Just 2 people. 1 board. And a story still being written. The next day came with golden light and soft skies. Birds sang over the park and children laughed near the trees. But everyone was waiting for the same thing. The next game between the quiet single dad and the woman who once ruled boardrooms with a glance. Liam arrived holding Ellie's hand as always. But there was something different in the way he walked. Something lighter. Something warmer. Ellie looked up at him and said, "You're smiling, Daddy. You only do that when you feel safe." He looked down at her and nodded. "Maybe I'm learning how to feel safe again." Then they reached the bench. The old wooden one beneath the tall tree. The chessboard came out. The pieces placed slowly, carefully, like setting a table for someone special. Then Vanessa walked in. No bodyguards. No sunglasses. No walls. She wore a soft red dress and simple shoes. She carried a small bag of snacks and a folded blanket. People stared, but not with fear. They smiled now. They whispered softly, like watching the next page of a love story they didn't want to end. She sat across from Liam and placed the snacks beside the board. "For Ellie," she said. "She likes strawberries, right?" Ellie gasped and nodded. "These are my favorite." The game began. But it didn't feel like a game anymore. It felt like a conversation. A dance. A story told one move at a time. They spoke between turns. Laughed between pieces. Even teased each other gently. "You're thinking too hard," Vanessa said. "Afraid to lose this time." "I'm just enjoying the moment," Liam replied. "I don't want it to end too quickly." People gathered around again. Not for the match, but for the magic. Halfway through the game, Ellie asked, "Can we go to the fair tomorrow? They have rides and music and cotton candy." Liam paused. Looked at Vanessa. She smiled. "I haven't been to a fair in years. But if your dad says yes, I'm coming too." Ellie squealed with joy. "It's a date then." Liam blinked. "A date." Vanessa looked at him and tilted her head. "Unless you're afraid of rides." "Not the rides. Just the company." Vanessa smiled again. Soft. Real. The game ended in a draw. Neither of them cared. They packed up the board. But neither one stood up. Liam looked at her and asked, "What happens when this ends? When the games are over? When the park is empty?" Vanessa looked at him for a long moment. Then said, "Maybe this isn't about winning anymore. Maybe this is just the beginning." Ellie yawned and leaned against Liam's shoulder. "Can we go home now? I want to dream about the fair." Vanessa stood up and said, "Let me walk you both part of the way." They walked slowly, side by side, like old friends, like something more. At the corner near the bookstore, Vanessa stopped. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said. "And every day after, if you'll let me." Liam looked at her. His heart was quiet but strong. He nodded. She leaned in. Not close enough for a kiss, but close enough to feel the answer in his silence. Then she turned and walked away. Ellie looked up at her dad and whispered, "You like her, don't you?" Liam smiled. "Maybe more than I should." The next day at the fair was filled with laughter. Vanessa screamed on the roller coaster. Liam laughed harder than he had in years. Ellie rode everything twice and held both their hands like she'd known this life forever. They ate too much candy, played silly games, took a photo in a tiny booth. A photo that Vanessa slipped into her wallet later without telling anyone. As the sun set over the fair, Vanessa looked at Liam, her voice soft and unsure. "Do you think people like us, broken and tired, can really fall in love again?" Liam looked at Ellie, then back at Vanessa. "Maybe we already are." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence said enough. The way their eyes held each other said everything. And as the lights of the fair glowed behind them, the story continued. Not with a bang, not with a twist, but with something rare, something gentle, something neither of them had planned. A chance at love, a chance at healing, a chance neither of them thought they would ever get again. And tomorrow, they would return to the bench, the board, and the game. But it would never be just a game again. The sky was clear that morning. The park looked brighter than ever. Even the birds seemed to sing louder, as if they knew something special was about to happen. Liam sat on the old bench, like always. But this time he wore a light shirt and clean shoes. Ellie sat beside him holding a flower she had picked. Her smile was big and her eyes full of excitement. Vanessa had not arrived yet, but Liam waited without worry, without fear, only calm, only hope. People gathered again, not for a match, not for a show, but for something they couldn't name, something quiet, something beautiful. Then she arrived. Vanessa walked slowly down the path, wearing a soft green dress that moved with the wind, her hair loose, her smile real. She held a chess piece in her hand, a white queen. When she reached the bench, she placed it on the board and said, "One last game. But this time, no winners, no losers, just one move each." Liam nodded and placed his king in the center of the board. Vanessa looked at Ellie and said, "Do you want to make the first move?" Ellie shook her head. "No, this one is for grown-ups." Vanessa smiled and moved her queen gently. Then she looked at Liam. "Your turn." Liam stared at the board, then at Vanessa. Then he moved his king beside her queen. They sat in silence. But the message was clear. Two pieces side by side. Not fighting, not running, just standing together. People watching clapped softly. Some wiped tears. Others held hands. Vanessa took a deep breath and said, "I have something to ask you." Liam raised an eyebrow. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple, beautiful, shining in the sunlight. Ellie gasped and covered her mouth. "Is that what I think it is?" Vanessa knelt down on one knee, not with pride, not with power, but with love. She looked at Liam and said, "I spent my life trying to win everything. But with you, I don't want to win. I just want to belong." Liam's eyes filled with tears. He looked at Ellie, who nodded fast and whispered, "Say yes, Daddy. Say yes." Liam took Vanessa's hand and helped her up. He didn't need words. He just kissed her hand gently and smiled. Yes. The crowd cheered. Ellie jumped into Vanessa's arms. And for the first time, Vanessa laughed without holding back. Like a little girl. Like someone who had finally found her home. They took a photo together on the bench. The king and queen still side by side. The flower Ellie had picked tucked into Vanessa's hair. That night they walked home together. All three holding hands. No rush. No fear. Just love. Months passed. But the bench remained. So did the chessboard. So did the stories. People still came to the park. Not to challenge Liam, but to ask him how he did it. Not the moves, but the heart. He always said the same thing. Sometimes the best move is not to win, but to see the one sitting across from you. Vanessa still worked, still led, still ruled. But now she came home to laughter, to dinner, to stories from Ellie's school. And Liam, he wrote again, taught again, smiled again. One day Ellie asked, "Do you think Mommy would be happy?" Liam hugged her and said, she would be proud. She would love Vanessa too. They visited her grave that week, brought flowers and the chess photo. Vanessa knelt and whispered, "Thank you for giving me your family. I promise to protect them with everything I have." The wind blew softly through the trees. Back in the park, a new sign was placed next to the bench. It said, "Play for joy. Play for peace. And if you're lucky, you might find something more." The old bench was no longer just a place for games. It became a place for stories, for memories, for hearts that needed healing. And every once in a while, someone would sit there and ask, "Is this where the single dad met the CEO?" And someone else would smile and say, "Yes." And he didn't just beat her. He married her. Because, in the end, the best checkmate isn't made on the board. It's made in the heart. And love, when played with honesty, always wins.